a chance now for us to catch up with a new member of the Honourable Company and someone who also has a lot of experience to offer our business group, and that's Andy Downton. Hi there, Andy.
Good afternoon, Mark.
I have to say, formerly of the Downton Group, and you are now somebody who has joined the ranks of the retired, but for many years we've been familiar. We still see the lorries bearing your family's name on the road. So how long have you been retired now then?
We sold the business in 2018, so it's coming up 3 years now.
Yeah.
But for the first 12 months, my brothers and I were retained just as part of the transition the business across.
Okay. So that maybe we'll talk about that in a minute, because I think that's something that would be quite an interesting story about how you've changed, because I'm sure that most people who run their own businesses, it's full on, and yours genuinely was a family affair. But can we just touch on very much the topical issue of the moment, which is this story that we have heard for some time now, and we continue to hear. I understand that even Christmas is now being threatened by the lack of drivers. So what's your view on that from the professional's point of view?
Well, firstly, the driver shortage is nothing new. The drivers have been short probably, and it's been slowly getting worse for the last 10 years, I would say. Okay. One has to bear in mind that it's a very unsociable job with very long hours, very unsociable hours. And as an industry, we haven't been very good at attracting young people in. Young people today would much rather play with an iPad than they would sit in a traffic jam on the M25.
Yeah.
So as an industry, lorry drivers are becoming scarcer and scarcer. I mean, today there's probably about 100,000 short, but we were probably 60,000 short before Brexit. But there's 3 or 4 things at play. One thing is definitely, and people tend to forget this, IR35. Some of the members may understand what IR35 is, but that was where you could actually become a self-employed person and opt out of PAYE and become a de facto limited company.
Yeah.
That loophole was closed 2 years ago, and a lot of drivers actually stopped being in the industry from that point because they didn't feel that they wanted to continue on PAYE. Yes. So that took a swathe of drivers out. And then they brought in driver CPC 5 years ago, where you had to have at least 12 hours training a year. Again, that started to take people out. And without doubt, Brexit has affected it, because there was a large proportion of the UK driver force was East European, and they underpinned the workforce. And with Brexit, and then obviously following on with COVID, a large proportion of the East Europeans have gone home. Yeah. And some of them felt quite sad after Brexit and felt a bit unloved. And I don't think some of them will come back, because the driver shortage is prevalent in Europe as well.
Okay.
Yeah, and we're all to blame, everybody to blame really, because we all expect cheap prices. We all want to go in the supermarkets and we want the best prices, and multiples put pressure on hauliers. Margins for hauliers are wafer thin, 1 or 2%. And, we are all to blame, because as a nation, we have traded our dignity and self-reliance for low prices.
Yeah.
And it's going to take years to come back to, put the level of drivers back in that we need. Certainly drivers' pay is rising. It's going up quite dramatically, and that will bring young people in.
Yeah.
But this is not purely about Brexit. This is a combination of factors.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you, is it a relief now you're not involved? Because it must be an awful headache for anybody in the logistics business, where you might be able to provide the vehicles, you probably be able to provide the loads, but you can't find somebody to drive. So what the hell are you going to do?
Yeah, transport logistics is a very, very tough industry.
Yeah,
it's not for the faint-hearted. It's a 24-hour operation, and my brothers and I gave our whole lives to it. Our father died very untimely at the age of 52 in 1985, and my brothers and I came in very quickly, obviously, after his untimely death. But it's not an industry that you can just, you've got to be totally focused on it. It takes over your whole life. It's it is your life, and we gave everything to that business, and I'm very proud of what we achieved. But any successful business needs a succession plan and needs to know when to step off the stage. And I'd like to think that it's all right looking back on hindsight, but our timing was right. Certainly nobody could have predicted COVID, and what a tough time it's been for anybody in industry. And I'm full of admiration for the people that are running businesses that have coped with it, fought it every day, dealt with furlough, dealt with all the various changes in the legislation and the way that vaccinations, and it's been a tremendously tough time for anybody in business, and my heart goes out to them.
Can we just have a couple of brief answers here, or brief questions? I mean, what's involved in getting an HGV license?
You have to be, it used to be 21, they've now reduced it to 18, but it's a 2-stage. You have to do your class 3 first, which is like a rigid license.
Yeah. And
then when you're doing that, you have to wait 3 months, and then you can go on and do your class 1 license. It can cost anything up to £3,000 just for the training. More and more companies now, because there's a shorter drivers, will pay for that training because they're trying to get people into the industry. But the timing of this discussion is quite fortuitous, because this week I think the government's going to announce new legislation where you don't have to take a rigid license first. You can go straight into a class 1 license, which they're just furiously trying to speed up the amount of drivers coming into the industry. The other thing I didn't mention was another big problem was obviously the government furloughed a lot of the driver trainers. So you were now waiting 6 and 9 months to get a test to take a lorry license.
Yeah.
So again, as the country switched back on from the effects of the pandemic, driver training, as in the physical vehicle examiners, is another example of where it's going to take time to ramp back up again. So
it will survive though, won't it? I mean, the logistics industry's got to keep going, isn't it? Somehow.
Oh, it will. Yeah, it will survive, but deliveries being failed will become the norm. When we were involved with the business, every focus every night was to clear all the loads, make sure everything was covered. Now you're walking in every day. You don't know how many drivers you're going to get. You can't rely on agencies anymore. So you will see more. I mean, things like diesel, petrol deliveries. Garages are running out of petrol and diesel more and more. Food shelves, beer shelves, you name it. It's affecting everything. Yeah. And it will slowly get, it will get worse before it gets better.
Okay.
But we will survive. We're not going to run out of food. We will get through this. I'm an optimist, and it will come right. It's going to take, I think, 1 to 2 years, probably 2 years.
Fine. You mentioned, Andy, in one of your answers about having to step in when sadly your father died. I mean, were you working in another industry or doing another job then? Or were you at the university or something?
No, I was already in the business, and one of my other brothers was in the business. But we were very much junior roles. It was a much smaller business then. We had 12 trucks, but literally, my father, he had a heart attack at home, and that was it, and it was gone. Yeah. And it was a tremendous shock at the time, and it was all hands to the pumps. And your initial instinct is, can we keep going? Can we afford to pay the wages? And we were young. I mean, I was 23. My father died on my brother's 21st birthday. They're twins. So it is a case of, it's the fear that drives you on, and the three of us became, a very tight team. And you realize quite early on that, you have to get on. And in many respects, 3 brothers is better than 2, because we quickly agreed that if 2 of us agreed on something, then the other would fall in. So you became a very powerful, not a committee, I don't like the word committee, but the 3 of us, through the sadness of losing our father very early on, and the fact that we were young and had the arrogance of youth, and the fact that you worked 15 hours a day, 7 days a week, in many respects was the fuel that fueled the growth in the business. Yeah, because you are, you're frightened of nothing, and you have to keep going. So yes, seems a long time ago now, but
yeah, I'm sure it does. But you've achieved a fantastic amount, and I'm sure your mother must be extremely proud of you, your 3 boys, and I believe your sister was also involved in the business as well. So
yeah, it was very much a family business. But as the business grew, like all good organisations, you need good management around you, and we had some very good people around us who bought into the Downton ethics, the Downton values, and it was very much a can-do attitude. And it was about logistics really is problem solving on an hour-by-hour basis, and it was all about making the people around us buy into that, and understand what we're all about.
So you mentioned when you got involved, you had 12 wagons. How many did you end up with when you sold up? Can you remember?
600. Yeah.
God, that's amazing. So, tell us about the people that took over. You were one of a group of companies that they bought, I believe.
Yeah, they're based in Hong Kong. They viewed the UK as a very exciting place to build a big logistics business. They were involved in shipping deep sea from China and Hong Kong, and they wanted a UK train set, really.
Yeah.
So they bought a pallet network, and they bought an international freight forwarding company, and they wanted a UK domestic haulage business, and we were one of the ones that they targeted. They're very shrewd people. They've got a clear, defined strategy, and we were very fortunate that they came along when they did. And I wish them every luck in the world. It's not a family business anymore. No. But as I said earlier, any family business at some point has to make the difficult decision. Where is the succession? Do we believe in the next generation? A lot of family businesses will often trip up once it goes on to the third generation and these sorts of things. And we just didn't want, we just wanted it to keep powering forward. If a business isn't moving forward, it's ultimately slipping back.
Yeah.
I'm 61, my brother's 58, and we realized that, health could play a part, and it was a case of stepping off the stage when the time was right.
We don't have a lot of time, sadly, but I do want to ask one question about Downton and Gloucester Rugby, because there are two places that I see the branding of the company. One is obviously on the wagons themselves, and secondly is, I think I'm right in saying, on the shorts of the Gloucester players. So is that a particular passion for you and your brothers?
Yeah, we've always been interested in rugby. I mean, I used to watch rugby Gloucester from a young age. I can remember catching the train from Stonehouse with friends and going and standing in the shed. No, we became a national business. We became a business that was recognised, certainly in our sector, across the country. And sport is a great thing. It's a great thing for talking with clients. When you meet clients, everybody's interested in football, rugby. And part of it was obviously we were local boys. We're lads that grew up in the Severn Vale. We cared passionately about Gloucester, cared passionately about our county. And to be linked with Gloucester Rugby, we always treated as a privilege. It was good for us as a family business that cared about the county. It was good to see the visibility that you got with branding on shirts or shorts. And it was a good conversation piece when you're talking with clients. And also the staff enjoyed it. We had, the staff had benefits off the back of Gloucester Rugby. So it was a partnership, a relationship that we always thoroughly enjoyed. Come on, Gloucester Rugby. Come on, Gloucester. Keep going forward.
Keep the faith. Favourite player over the years, Andy? Anybody that you're particularly stand out for you?
Mike Teague's a legend.
Yeah.
True Gloucester grit.
Yes.
Phil Vicker is a gentleman and an up-and-coming Gloucester entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Johnny May's very exciting. Charlie Sharples was electric. James Simpson, Daniel, Mike Tindall. You can go on. Leslie Vanacola was box office. Yeah. There's so many, and I've had so many happy Saturdays, night times with clients, and we've had clients from all across Europe come.
Yes.
We've had Irish clients, and everybody loves Kingsholm.
Yeah.
We would have clients come in from rugby, watch rugby in France, Italy, Ireland. Everybody loved Kingsholm. It was a great place to be, especially when Gloucester were winning.
Absolutely. Well, let's keep our fingers crossed for this season. But I mean, you've obviously got a bit of time on your hands now. So what else do you get up to?
I'm mentoring a couple of small businesses. I'm involved with my godson. He's got a small property business in Bristol. I'm looking to invest in local Gloucestershire businesses, preferably mentoring the young. I'm a Samaritan volunteer, and I do that a couple of times a week or once or twice a week, which I thoroughly enjoy. It's very rewarding. To be involved in a big family business, living life at 100 miles an hour, to suddenly selling it takes a time to adjust. you know, your whole life changes. The business was my life, my brother's life as well. It's probably taken 2 years to adjust, and it's only now that I feel retired.
Yes.
But the one thing I do care about is I care about business. I care about Gloucestershire and Southwest businesses. And what time I have left, anything that I've learned, I'm willing, you know, I'm very eager to mentor the young in a practical basis. And I wouldn't be, you know, but what I can give is a lifetime's knowledge of the thrills and spills of running, you know, a significantly scaled business, and just there to offer support, hand on shoulder. And I'm, you know, I'm willing to invest in young startup businesses of people that I could see that, you know, are really got enthusiasm, energy, and a passion and a love for what they want to do and what they want to achieve.
Andy, I'm afraid the clock has beaten us. You, like everybody else that I speak to in these occasions, we could sit here for hours chatting. But, yeah, you know, we're delighted that you joined the Honourable Company. We hope that we'll see you around at some of the events. And thank you so much for spending time with us today.
Thank you very much, Mark. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for your time.